So hello everybody and welcome to the season review vlog of Legend of Korra. I know this has been delayed for quite a bit, but there's been a good reason for that, and that is I've been having difficulties to make up my mind about this season. This season has been a wild ride, I must say, for certain. For it has a lot of flaws. I mean, just humongous flaws. But at the same time, it has very good points, and those points are something that I thoroughly enjoyed. And I could technically speaking say that this is my second favorite season of Legend of Korra, just speaking from because I value those things that they conversed quite a bit, and I saw a lot of potential, and I still enjoyed it quite a bit. Now there are a lot of problems, so we're gonna have to discuss those first. Now I must say, this season was, just speaking on the storytelling department, worse than first season in my opinion. Now this is my opinion, don't get mad at me yet. That's because, well, there are many reasons for that. While it was, technically speaking, from technical standpoints, music and audio department and animation and just generally, the show was a lot better in this last season. Just from storytelling purposes, it had a lot of problems with pacing, character motivations, exposition, and many things such as that. And that's why it's, technically speaking, I feel it's worse than first season. However, I enjoyed this season far more than the first season. This is not to say that the first season was bad, but this is to say that this season had things that I generally appreciated a lot. Okay, so first off, I won't be discussing the last scenes. I know Korra Asami is now canon, and my honest reaction to that is, okay. I do not really have anything to say about that. While I certainly appreciate the recognition of the LGBT community, as I am a part of it, or I think I am, I don't know, I'm pansexual, it's basically bisexual. So, while that is something I appreciate, it's not something that generally emotionally affected me. So, I can see why people would be outraged by that, but I am, or outraged, or enthralled, or just have any emotions about that. But I personally do not have anything to say about that. So, I'm not going to talk about it here. However, I am open to conversations about this, so if you have any questions, propose your own ideas, I am free to I am just saying it's my own opinion. People are definitely gonna have, or already had, more well, emotional feelings about it. I was just indifferent about it, but that's because I've never had to face any discrimination about my sexuality. Oh man, that was far longer than I wanted it to be. Just goes to show you how little I actually care about it. So, now, the actual problems. First of all, this season lost a lot of subtlety. There was very, very few subtle moments. And those were, well, not that great either. Now, I have generally liked all the subtlety that the previous seasons had, because those proposed so many interesting possibilities about the characters. But we lost those in this season. And that is a huge misfortune, because the team was very efficient at creating those moments, but now there's no more of those. There are few, and don't get me wrong, that doesn't make the show bad, it makes it easier to understand, but I liked subtlety, and it's a shame that this season had very little of it. And it makes some of the characters seem a bit dumb for pointing out obvious facts, pointing out things that they shouldn't actually, and it makes them seem a lot more mechanical and a lot more token, more wooden, and it doesn't seem so realistic. But it's the choice they had to go with, and it certainly could have been helped with time. Then another point that I have to say that against the show, or this season rather, is were a lot of things that happened, and there were a lot of events, and those were great events we had, but they were just things happening, and they felt very unconnected. They were not actually so well tied together, and certainly there could have been like most of these problems come from the lack of time. This season definitely needed more episodes. Even 4 more episodes could have been needed, because there are just so many problems, and they had to even waste one of them for just a joke episode because of budget. Now, this is completely Nickelodeon's fault, and there's nothing that I can actually blame the creators for, but I just feel like they kind of dropped the ball here. Now, like the events, there's very little connectivity. While all the events make sense, there are many events that just kind of betray the original characters. At least that's what I feel like, and that is some criticism that I have already heard. So that's just how I feel. Yeah, that is one huge problem. There are many characters that also were out of character. For example, Sujin. And that was a horrible pronunciation of the name. And just in general, there are only characters who didn't get any character development. And again, lack of time. There were so many unexplored avenues for storytelling here, and so many possibilities for interesting stories, interesting possibilities, and even those were even hinted at, and that betrayed the show betrayed expectations by presenting those ideas and not delivering on them. That is far worse than not even that. Okay, maybe not far worse, but that is worse than just not giving ideas about those possibilities. And unfortunately, one of the problems I had with this season was Kuvira. Again, it has to do with betrayed expectations. And that is, she felt unmotivated. Her motivations were rather lackluster, and she didn't get that many character moments, and in the end, she didn't really get that great of development. We didn't get any flashbacks from her past, we didn't get any deeper character connection and such. And that's a shame, because I really liked the premise behind her character. She proposed an interesting idea. I really liked the idea of having an empire, because it seemed like a wonderful idea, and it certainly was something that even Korra doubted that it could be a good possibility. But they didn't have enough time for Kuvira to explore that and converse about that more. And that is again a shame. As you can definitely hear, there are many problems that could have been fixed with time, and that is what annoys me most. It's not that the show's creators are inept, it's that they were hampered so much. Now, I want to get this really out quickly, so I have kind of thought about this a lot. What I do like about this episode, however, is actually Kuvira again. I really like her character, even if she had betrayed my expectations. She wasn't as good as I had hoped for. That's not to say that she wasn't good at all. I really did like her character and her motivations, in the sense that they were at least understandable, and her story was sad, but it felt sad for the sake of being sad. But I like her because she was an interesting, charismatic villain. Not in the same way that Zahir was, but in the way that more akin to what Azula was in the Last Airbender series. She dominated people with power and presence. Not so much with and fear tactics. That's the point. Not that much with just open displays of power, but rather with open displays of presence and effects. She had accomplished many things, and she was certainly a great leader, as well as a proficient strategic. strategian. So she was a good villain in that sense, and I do like her a bit more than Aman, I must say. Not as much as Zahir, but I don't think anybody would complain about that. There are certainly reasons why you would like this season more than the first one, and I mean the second. Well, the first one and the third one, but those are just personal. I'm just sharing my personal experiences. I know I'm gonna get yelled for saying that so often, but yeah, yeah, I really did like Kuvira, and she proposed an interesting idea. It wasn't fulfilled, but she at the very least proposed it, and it got me thinking about it, so that's kudos for the show at the very least. Then what else I liked was actually Varric again. Like, I don't know why, but I still do like Varric, and how his character was probably the most constant throughout this season. And even though he seemed to wanna blow himself up, that would make sense that he wanted to make such a sacrifice. And I kind of liked it. Some people probably did not like it. If I remember correctly, there were comments saying that it was a stupid idea and uncharacteristic of Varric to sacrifice himself. But I liked it. As well as Varric's character, because he was a driving force behind the war in general. I really liked that. As well as I liked the Asami's character, even though she got, again, far too few moments, but at the very least she got some, and those were, oh, so glorious. I liked, well, I wouldn't be like, I would be lying if I said I didn't like every scene. I thoroughly enjoyed every scene with Asami, including the final scene, even though I have no strong feelings about that. But yeah, I liked every scene with Asami. Then what I also liked was the action. While I don't generally enjoy action, it was far more intelligent in this, and since it had a lot more fights with mechs against just people not in mechs, and also mechs against mechs, and just generally more creative fights, they were a lot more interesting to look at. And Korra has been generally always interesting. Their fight choreography has been always very creative, and it certainly was here. Especially in the final fight, which is why I enjoyed it so much. The final fight really pushed this over the edge. It pushed this season above the first season for me. But there was one moment, one episode, or the whole theme of this season, if you want to consider it why I liked this season so much, and that is they handled PTSD in a subtle way. It was subtle, but it was clear. It was relatable. As a person who suffers from PTSD, I generally just like that. I really did like that, and that is the single reason I really liked this season. It handled PTSD in a very relatable manner for me. We clear on that? That is the single reason why I enjoyed this. So, yeah. I know this is a lot shorter than my usual vlogs, or season review vlogs, but I think I recapped my feelings about the season a lot well. Generally speaking, I am still more satisfied with the final episodes, or the finale. It left me more satisfied than The Last Airbender, because I don't crave this show anymore. I craved more from The Last Airbender after the finale than from here. So that is my reasoning. You are completely free to disagree with me. I've read some comments that didn't like this season. I have already conversed on some forums about this, and I completely understand those points. But these are my opinions, so I thank you all very, very much. There will be more coming about Avatar and The Last Airbender and The Legend of Korra. I will be comparing these series in videos, but I don't know how fast I'll get those out. But I thank you all very much for watching, and I hope I'll see you again. So, I'll see you in the next videos, and have a great day, and Ganmu out. Stay awesome.